Greetings everybody and welcome to a scene for Vampire by Gaslight. Tonight brings us again to the Crawley residence, where this time a different guest is currently residing in the chamber of Dr. Crawley. But as Beatrice comes down the long corridor of their household, she can see Joseph and her brother shaking hands in the doorway of his library. They're having a conversation in sort of low tones.
Beatrice will give them both a smile, a nod of acknowledgement, and move to head past towards her study because she doesn't tend to intrude too much on her brother's business.
Dr. Crawley stops Beatrice and says, "Sister, would you be so kind as to entertain Dr. Fortescue a little bit longer, as I have to run out on an errand?"
Of course. I see no problem with this.
He smiles and turns and goes and heads out towards the area where the carriages are kept. So, and Joseph turns towards Beatrice, and there's a little glint in his eyes. He's carrying his doctor's bag in one hand, and under his arm he has a black, smaller case.
Would you care to come through to my parlour?
How kind.
And she'll show him through. As well as the usual assortment of things that she has going on, there's also a rather detailed drawing of that individual that was fought that she will spread out on a drawing desk in case he is interested.
I'm going to look at it as I walk into the room, and I'm going to make a manipulation subterfuge roll to hide my
recognition.
My response.
She will be watching him quite carefully, knowing full well what he is capable of doing.
Roll 7 dice.
I'm not sure what her willpower score is or what her nature and demeanour technically is in order to spend a willpower point, but she probably would be given the situation.
Yeah, she has. She has willpower.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I know she'd have some. I'm just saying.
Yes, I think she has 6 willpower. 6 or 7.
Well, she would be spending a willpower point on this because he's the only person she knows in the city likely to be responsible for this thing. But all the ones say no.
He seems to keep himself composed, having little to no reaction of this creature. He looks at it. Interesting specimen.
Yes. It's a shame I've not been able to see it in person.
Nor have I, much the pity. There's a slight annoyance in his tone.
It seemed very much like an early attempt on the part of some relatively unskilled individual.
Yes. It's likely that we have an unskilled individual in the city that we must root out before they would give us all a bad name.
Indeed.
Hang on a second, my laptop cable's come out. So, I was actually hoping to see you this evening, Miss Beatrice.
Really? I
Hmm.
must say that is most gratifying to hear.
I have brought you a gift I think you would appreciate. And he walks over to her writing desk and sets down the smaller black case upon it. It's fastened with a little clasp, but it's not locked.
Her eyes will kind of light up slightly, and she smiles. And compared to her usual demeanor, this seems just that little bit more real and almost girlish. You can see a glimpse of who she used to be, essentially, as she makes her way over towards the box. And she'll run her fingers over the top of the box as if savouring the moment before actually opening it.
Well, you know how some people like to collect butterflies and such things.
Mm-hmm.
Inside are, to a cursory glance, they might look like butterflies, as they're certainly in that shape. But what they are human finger bones, which have been moulded with flesh crafted onto them in the shape of wings and in different variations of colour and been pigmented to all look like butterflies in the case. But it's a pretty way of doing vicissitude.
Lovely. I must say, you have been studying quite a bit, I take it.
Yes, I was careful to provide you with varying different samples. When you sort of look up from the case, you notice that Joseph is very close behind you. And he reaches out and puts his hand, not exactly touching Beatrice, but almost around her as he puts it on the glass, and indicates to the different types of skin that have been used, so the different races of the people in question, for example.
It must have been quite difficult to attain that sample. And she'll gesture to one of the more unusual skin tones.
Yes, it's taken me a little bit of time to collect all the specimens needed, but it's worth the effort. I'm quite proud of my achievement, and I'm sure it would make a lovely addition to your collection.
I'm quite sure it will. It is true what they say about the Toreador and their appreciation for fine art.
We Toreador appreciate beauty in all its forms. He says a very small smile. It takes a very slight step to the side in case you want to turn around or move yourself. Because he was pretty much so close that you wouldn't have been able to move without pushing him.
She will turn as though entirely unaware of exactly how close he is, because she's standing there perfectly relaxed, but facing him now to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they're probably like inches apart at this point.
Yeah, very, very close indeed. But he also looks rather calm about this.
Might I ask about the decision about butterflies? They are absolutely exquisite. I just wondered if there was any symbology to their selection.
Well, from what I do know of your clan, it's all about... And he does a motion with his hand, as if freeing something with it. Metamorphosis. Change. Development. Turning something mundane into something beautiful.
This is true. And I do like the idea of light.
Yes. Don't we all? I've seen one creature capable of flight.
Yes, the servants of the Tremere, I take it.
But Ron rarely sees those these days. As the kind population are more educated, it's harder to pass them off as monsters or imaginations.
And we have been quite vigilant in seeking out those individuals foolish enough to make one.
Yes.
I don't believe we're the only clan with such issues with the Tremere.
I'd be very interested on how these creatures are made, personally, but...
I do admit to a curiosity. All I know is that some of it involves taking individuals of other clans.
Mm-hmm.
I must admit to thinking that it might perhaps be related in some way to our own discipline.
It's possible. Perhaps I should get closer to the Tremere.
Indeed.
See if any of them will spill some secrets. Or anything else for that matter. He taps his doctor's bag.
Yes. It is quite interesting what one can learn when one pays attention.
And so, this monstrosity, would you be interested if I could get my hands on it for you?
Yes. It would be quite interesting to see what could be discovered from it.
I know who
Perhaps. Oh, please do go on.
Because I know who it is in the possession of.
Well, that is a beginning.
How I get it out of his possession is a different matter. Because this individual thinks that he is clever and strong. He may be stronger than me, certainly. But he's not cleverer than I am.
I do so appreciate being surrounded by strong and clever men.
And he has a weakness which I do not have. Which can be exploited ever so easily.
And what might this weakness be?
His progeny. He went against my bidding, and instead of choosing somebody of creativity and intellect and of note within the realm of the arts, he chose a common street whore. Excuse my language.
I've heard worse in my time.
Granted, she is a very beautiful common street whore, but a common whore nonetheless.
And beauty can be created.
And beauty can be destroyed.
I would have thought that would be against your aspirations.
But you see, she's a very stale idea of beauty. She caters to men's lusts, I'll give her that, base desires. But there's so much more beauty in transformation than what can be done with such a perfect canvas. You can see in his eyes his mind's starting to drift a little bit.
And Beatrice will bite her lip thoughtfully as her mind also goes into various different ideas. Probably slightly different to Joseph's.
His eyes are drawn to the bitten lip, and his lips curl into a smile. I will see. But some of us were not so lucky to be blessed with peers and desirables around them, within their clan, within their family. I often think that I would be much more beneficial in this household.
Well, I know that my brother has extended the offer towards you of becoming a part of our family at some point.
Yes. Perhaps then we could create something together.
And her eyes will flick down to the butterflies, and her hand will rest lightly on the glass. Perhaps there is a way to take someone's beauty and bring it to greater artistic merit.
I'm listening.
Well, there is no reason to mar what is already there, but it could be adapted, as you have done. As I said, I am quite curious about the ideas of flight. Although I severely doubt that as membranous and diaphanous wings as butterflies would work on a human frame. Perhaps something more Perhaps something based more upon mammalian style, or that of birds might be more effective.
He nods, pondering what you've said.
After all, if the Tremere creations are pale imitations of our art, perhaps we should show them the improved version.
Yes. Well, certainly something to think about. I will go home and mull over these things.
And I shall find a suitable place for this collection.
Perhaps by the window in your bedchamber.
Perhaps.
One piece at a time, he says with a smile at his own meaning. And steps back towards the door.
Thank you for this. I do appreciate the gift and the effort you must have gone through for it.
Well, one must start from the bottom to create a masterpiece. But perhaps my continued work will prove to you and your brother that I deserve a place in this family.
I'm quite sure he will agree with that, given time.
I will bid you good night for now.
Good night, Dr. Fortescue.
And with that he turns and heads out of the door, pulling it gently shut behind him.
And Beatrice will indeed put the butterflies in a nice place. Not actually next to the window, because she doesn't really have a window in her bedchamber, for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah, but it's not. I don't mean actually the open window that looks out into the light, but there must be some sort of replica window type thing. I'd say. It's not a real window, but it looks like a window. It's a stylistic window.
Actually, I'm thinking she might have a window-styled covering over a recess with something of a miniature garden or something behind it. Like a whole kind of bonsai tree going on. In which case she probably won't actually keep them in the case. They might end up in the garden.
Cool.
But anyway, there, the scene will end.